The time has come, it's almost here. Another day on the markets, approach with no fear. The stage is set, all engines go. Welcome to the angle. Let's start the show. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Digging deep with no regret. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle. No time to delay. Markets rise and markets fall. Atomcash is ready to answer the call. While the bulls charge hard and the bears dig deep, the angle will keep you on your feet. Hold on tight. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Digging deep with no regret. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle. No time to delay. Cashing in on the highs and lows, where the wind of fortune constantly blows. No looking back, keep your eyes on the prize. Fuel the run with a fire that never dies. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Digging deep with no regret. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle. No time to delay. No time to delay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the most entertaining, intellectually stimulating financial podcast in the entire world. You're watching the Atomcash Angle, the show that flips the switch and floods the system with straight financial voltage. I'm Adam Cash, and I'm bringing you the firepower your financial life may have been missing. Now, whether you're new to trading or a trading savant, I am to turn complexity into clarity with a shot of adrenaline. And today, we are entering the Thunderdome, as I like to call it, the Thunderdome of finance. And whenever we have a Thunderdome, that means there's a lot going on. And today is no exception. We have Google, we have Microsoft, we have Meta reporting earnings after hours on top of all that. And before that, we have FOMC, which is going to be big in itself. The market has gapped up once again, although a very baby gap. But we are on our fourth gap? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That was technically a gap. Yeah, fourth gap up in a row on the SPY. It's getting a little lofty. It's getting a little crazy. And today is no day to be a hero, but we're going to highlight why I still think the market has more room left in it, believe it or not. Now, that will be after a little bit of a drawback, but make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about that later in the show, probably a little bit after market open, on what to look out for and why the market is actually sitting in an interesting spot at all-time highs, and why I actually think it's going to go even higher, and it's probably not the reason you're necessarily thinking. So stay tuned for that if that sparked your interest. Now, we're going to check out our Catalyst Watch like I like to do every single morning, make sure nothing new has popped up overnight especially. And it doesn't seem like there is much else. We saw Visa had earnings after hours yesterday, but outside of that, we had Boeing this morning, which we could take a peek on if anyone has interest in that. But today, like I said, the big thing to keep an eye out for is FOMC. Of course, you have the rate statement at 2 o'clock. Powell's talking at 2:30. More than likely, we're going to get another 25 basis point cut. What I'm most interested in is actually seeing how the 30-year responds to that, because not everyone... what everyone was thinking, I should say, for how the 30-year responded at the first cut was not what happened. So I'm very interested in how the 30-year will respond if, assuming we get another rate cut, which at least the market is pricing in. So anything outside of that will be a little bit of a surprise, I think, at least as it sits right now. But most importantly, Powell's talking today at 2:30, and that's the point in time you want to pay attention. Think of it as the rate decision is kind of like the appetizer, and the actual the Q&A is what you need to pay attention to, because that is going to give you an idea of where the Fed's hand is looking to move, right? those questions and the rhetoric, whether it's hawkish or dovish, can give you an idea of how the Fed is seeming or wants to plan going into the future, which matters more to you and matters to the market, right? The market is forward-looking, right? It's not about what you did for me yesterday. It's not about what you did for me today. It's what are you doing for me in the future? So that Q&A session is way more important, at least in my opinion. That's also why you see the market react a little bit harsher at that time at 2:30 today. So make sure you're being aware of that. Outside of what I already previously alluded to, obviously with Google, Microsoft, and Meta, we also have Starbucks and eBay after hours today, and then pre-market tomorrow in case you're swinging anything overnight, because tomorrow's also going to be a big day. If you are in the healthcare sector, make sure you keep an eye on Eli Lilly. That's tomorrow morning, and also we have Merck. Another one for payment processing, you do have MasterCard as well. So that's what you want to keep an eye on overnight. Again, we're big into earnings week. We got a lot going on, a lot to talk about in general. So we're going to go over Google, Microsoft, and Meta a little bit later. And we're also going to take a peek, if you guys want to take a peek at Boeing. If anyone's interested in Boeing, we'll take a peek at Boeing as well and see what's going on there. Hatchet with the good morning. Good morning, Hatchet. Hope you're doing well. Eddie with the you're in the chat. HR dropping the happy hump day. Happy hump day. And he's saying that he is back from vacation and ready to full port. Yeah, nothing says safe like full porting at all-time highs. Can't go wrong, right? Toby dropping the sup, Toby. HR is interested in hearing Boeing thoughts. Let's take a quick peek at Boeing. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I had a rest day today when normally I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. I go to the gym. I was actually up at 2 a.m. and then I ended up knocking out after being awake for an hour, not being able to go to sleep. So I ended up knocking out until like 7 o'clock. So I don't know their earnings. So we're going to look at this with fresh eyes because it's not something I have been able to catch up on. I had a busy morning because my morning was not per usual. So it looks like they reported their earnings. Just looking at the chart, it's flat, right? So this is actually a good candidate for a day trade if you're interested in that. Playing the IV crush, the implied move, which I can't, we can imply here. Implied move on this name, $9 roughly. And the quick and easy way to do an implied move, guys, if you ever want this really simple tip, you just take, well, in this case, you can take the last, right, of where the price is currently sitting. So we're sitting right around that 223. So the nearest strike, you're in between these two, but I would go a little bit lower. So take, at least in this case, the last of both, squish them together. That's the quick and easy way to figure out what an implied move is on a stock for their earnings. So in this case, and it's not rocket science, it's not anything, hardcore or intense. In this case, the implied move is about $10.50, right? $10 and 40 cents, $10.50, something like that. So call it $10 to make it easy, right? So $10 implies that Boeing looks to move, or should have moved, at least $10 in either direction from its close. So you're looking at 213 and 233. So based on the chart right now, we're flat. So you're going to get a lot of IV crush here. So that's what I'm saying. Typically, these implied moves do hit during the day if they don't hit during the earnings time. Now, I don't know. I don't think their earnings call has happened or has it? I don't know. I'm going to check real quick. And again, I don't know. So I'm just being very honest with you guys. I'm not aware of this one. But I know they reported early this morning. Yeah, it's 7:30 this morning. I don't see if they're having their call yet. So if someone wants to clue me in on that, I'm not sure if they've had their call yet. Look at the news here. Blah, 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 blah. Cash burn. $4.9 billion due to the delays here. That's about it. Revenue is up 50% year over year, driven by a 71% surge in 787. So it looks like you got some mixed bag here, which explains and this is me just, again, quickly analyzing just the news, right? It looks like they're slipping on some cash burn. However, it looks like overall revenue is solid. So money's coming in, but they're not being efficient with the money that's coming in. At least that's what it looks like. So this one could be one you want to keep on watch, at least for a day trade today. As this will get crushed one way or the other. Looking at the daily chart, let's take a quick peek here. We are above all EMAs and MAs that I like to keep an eye on the daily here. In fact, I'd lean more bullish than bearish with how this is set up at this point in time. As you can see, this isn't one I've really charted recently. Looks like you're rounding out here on the weekly. You got some daily momentum here. So what I'd look for, let's see if it taps the 50 MA, which also lines up with prior day, so not yesterday, the day before, just close. So what I'll do here, if I am going to take a position, I'd rather be a call position. And obviously, as the market opens and things happen, that can change. But I'll set an alert at the low of the prior day's candle. So that's 22182. So let's set an alert there. Oops. Messed that up. Hold on one second. Create an alert. Why can't I edit it? All right. 22182. 22182. Below. You guys can't see that. There we go. All right, so the alert's set. So what we're going to do at that point in time, it puts it on my radar, and we can look in, again, intraday, right at that moment in time, and see if we react to the 50 MA or if we pull a little bit lower down here to where we get more of a cluster around this like 220 point. So this is definitely one that if you are interested in day trading today, this will have some motion here, right? It hasn't hit its implied move. So this is one you want to keep on your watch. In fact, we'll add it to our watch list right now, so we have it at the top, and we'll keep a tight eye on it. Good morning, Omar, and good morning, Negum. Thank you guys for dropping a what's up in the chat. Hope you all are doing well. So right now the market is sitting right at basically yesterday's high. We've moved above that in the pre-market, so you're going to want to watch that general area, which we kind of double topped here in the pre-market very early at 689.45, and then again here at 689.41. So you're going to want to watch that general area into the open here, which isn't a far cry. It's about 60 cents from our current price action and about 50 cents from all-time high from yesterday. I will remind you, this is our fourth gap up day in a row, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're pretty lofty up here into a heavy catalyst, with it being FOMC, into a heavier, or the catalyst that's heavy already, even heavier, with Google, Microsoft, and Meta reporting. Now, looking at those names, which we only have a few minutes here, so we'll buzz through them real quick and we'll rehash them in a little bit. Google sitting at all-time highs. Microsoft had a crazy little push yesterday on some OpenAI news, moved lower. And this one has also been pretty gappy here. I said yesterday, the day before when I was live, that I actually like this more to the upside and see it making new all-time highs. Kind of front ran that with the OpenAI thing and kind of double topped here. So now it's a little shifty now that we've basically double topped at all-time highs with Microsoft going into earnings. I don't love that, but it is what it is. And Meta, this one also, I prefer the long look here. We're basically closed right on this POC here. You respected that old gap from the old ER. The preferred move would be bullish here, not bearish. And I'm not saying just for the market, I'm saying for how the stock looks, it would be more beneficial for everyone involved if the stock actually moved to the upside here. So I'm leaning more bullish into the tech earnings, but I've got a lot to say about that. We'll do that once after we got the market open and stuff. And make sure you stay tuned, because later on in the show, I'm going to talk about how I actually think the SPY has even more legs, can go even higher than it is right now. As you guys know, my end of the year price target is 700. I still think we're on track for that. I mean, now that's not a crazy prediction with being $12 away. But I actually am looking at the end of Q1, mid Q2 for 750, maybe a little bit higher than that, 770-ish. And I'll explain why, because I have reasons, I have rationale. So we'll talk about that. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll probably get to that around 9:45-ish. Obviously, I want to get through the open with you guys. We're also going to prepare you for today's FOMC, so you want to stay tuned for that, because some of you are going to make a heavy, heavy, heavy boo-boo today, and I'm here to prevent you from having boo-boos, so you don't need Band-Aids, or you don't lose all your money in the stock market because you did something very silly on one day, because you're thinking with a one-day outlook when you should be thinking for months and years ahead. But that's why I'm here, to help you guys stay grounded into the market. All right, we got about 20 seconds or so until the market is about to open near this all-time high, so let's get ready to go.
The market is about to open. It's time to start the day.
All right, the market right now is about to open, sitting right on that 200 MA in the pre-market here, getting shot down a little bit from that yesterday's all-time high as we head into the open right now. Market opens at 688.73, which is actually right around this like kind of POC from 8:30 on. So that's interesting to note here that We're at a point of volume or of interest here from the pre-market, and as per usual, or as it has been for a little while now, I am getting bombarded with alerts this morning, early out of the gate, real quick. All right, hold on. Let's see if I got to manage anything real fast. Ooh, the BA alert went off. Let's check BA right now. So let's watch this. Ooh, we went lower. We tapped that little cluster there. How expensive are these? This might be the only day trade I take today for what it's worth. The spread. I'm looking at the 220s right now in the calls. It literally said 0. I'm not sure if anyone caught that if you're watching live. That's a wide spread. That's a crazy spread. Keep an eye on the 220s. I'm going to keep the contract up here for you guys. Let's keep an eye on those 220s. It's getting hammered. Now you're at that daily POC on Boeing. I'm actually going to grab a few here. I'm going to try to. This is a crazy spread. We'll see. Yeah, I didn't get filled. We'll see. If I can target like mid twos, I'll look for a fill here. These are so spready though. All right, I actually filled there. All right, just got my fill. I'm rocking a, and there's the rest. All right, now I am long the 220 calls at a 289 average. Watch your spread. Watch your spread, not for the light of heart. Oh man, we're already going up. All right. May look to trim here momentarily. This should be volatile, which isn't a bad thing in this case. I'm going to trim a few here. All right. I got a market fill there, and I only got a partial fill, but I did trim some. I got some out at 4 and 2 out around the 3s. I'll call it 4, I guess. That was 38%. When I'm playing a wide spread like this, and I'll go over it in a little bit here. When I'm playing a wide spread like this, I try to target closer to the ask if, like in this case, I'm call side. I'm targeting closer to the ask in this sense, where if it swings up more volatile, I tend to capture more premium in that case. You can obviously do a market order or whatever. To get out, if you want to just get out. But that's typically where I'll target. So we'll keep an eye on this now. Looking to see this general area hold, and then again on the daily, that 221, this 219 area is what I'm interested in holding here on Boeing, or at least respecting and pushing back to the upside. Keep in mind how close we are to being in the money in general, and this is obviously a volatile open off of earnings. It's a 220 call, right? And we're trading pretty close to that. We did fall, so for what it's worth, what was that, 221? We haven't hit the expected move either way yet. Typically, when the expected move is hit, it's kind of dead that way. These are volatile. Check on the market. Market back up to yesterday's all-time high. Technically, we just made a new all-time high intra-session here on that last candle there. IWM selling off at the moment. Qs, again, the divergence continues. Qs pushing to the upside. IWM pushing down at the moment. I'll keep Boeing up for you guys. I do need to check on some of my personal holdings here real quick because there's something that triggered. Did I alert that one? I think I did. So if you're in our Discord, a few days ago I alerted a swing on LBRT, which I have trimmed. We're now breaking this new LOI here. I just had the alert fire off. So watch this 1779. Again, if you're in our Discord community, you got in, or you had the opportunity to consider, I should say, these calls on LBRT. believe I ordered a 120 entry on the $16 calls for November. They're currently trading at about $2. So that's something I'm personally keeping an eye on right now into the open. I'm going to watch if that 218 trips. Ooh, just broke the highs. My final price target for this one, again, a very short-term swing here I'm looking for, and I probably want to close out today to just be a little bit more defensive, is going to be this 1840 area. So we'll see if we can get that today. It's looking okay. If I can close these contracts, again, this is a 120 entry. They're currently trading, it's a 50-cent spread, but they're currently trading around $2. So if I can get anything over 240 for 100%, it'd be pretty solid. Toby, I missed that. Toby said heavy year. He dropped the heavy year, guys. All right, Boeing coming down a little bit more. So in terms of risk for this one, especially since I trimmed so quickly, if this doesn't like go the way I want it to, which is up in this case, by like 9:45, then I'd want to close out for risk with whatever's left, because these will start to decay a bit more. You already got IV crushed. The IV still elevated, obviously. Right now you're sitting at a 59, and I don't think, yeah, you guys can't see that. You're sitting at a 59% IV right now on Boeing. So got to see if that substantiates, that holds. And again, looking for this general area down here, this 215 to hold, getting above 219, and then ultimately 221 to push to the upside here on Boeing. But right now, the bears are looking like they're in control. I have a feeling this doesn't stick. Just call it a hunch. Meanwhile, SPY is making new all-time highs intraday. You're going to want to watch, again, the top, that double top pre-market-ish area up here, 689.41. I wouldn't get too excited as a bull in general on the day until that level breaks with, I almost said with violence, with volume, before you get too excited. Oh, baby. There's LBRT with volume. Almost to my price target on LBRT. Again, looking for anything north of like that 240 area. I'd be pretty happy. Pretty happy. Nice little wick and attempt at a reversal here. That's why I'm giving it to like around 9:45, because there could be one of these cases, especially off of earnings, where you sweep the lows and then just rocket it up to the upside. And that is not uncommon, especially with a big name like Boeing. You can see how violent these contracts are still moving. That IV has dropped 1% since I just mentioned it. So this IV is basically going to decay a little bit more as we get more and more into the open. So I have to take that into account with where the price currently is and where my strike price is. I'm on a 220 strike. It is Wednesday, so I have some time there. But if it doesn't look like we're going to get out of the block here sooner than later, then I do want to walk on the rest of my position. However, again, I am of the belief that we will get a nice little rally here. And this is just kind of like a sucker's fall, but we'll see. SPY rejecting that new all-time high and getting underneath yesterday's all-time high. Very tight here. I wouldn't expect a ton of price action from the SPY today for obvious reasons. I don't think you should either. So we will see how the market performs as a whole here. Sorry if I keep going back to this LBRT. I do want to keep a tight eye on it for myself and for our community over at Exclusive Trading, which if you want to check out, the link is in my bio. Get all the trades, get alerts from myself and one of the best technical traders in the game, Exclusive Trading himself, and also Grumps, who is a fantastic chartist. I think that's a compliment to call someone a chartist. Fantastic work. So if you want to be part of one of the best growing communities in the game, check out Exclusive Trading. The link is in my bio. Path is another name I want to highlight to you guys to keep on watch. I was long this name. I think I closed out 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. Somewhere on this green pump. I got long somewhere down here in this 1490. I closed out because it was looking like it was going to get a little bit of a retracement. If we do see a little bit more of a retracement, especially to the 21 EMA, I am going to hunt for another long here on Path for what it's worth. So you do want to keep that one on watch if you like that exposure. Man, the swing cannon is swinging. We're looking pretty healthy for the swing cannon today. The swing cannon is swinging. Other names to keep on watch today. You guys know, and I've talked about it quite a bit on this program. I even made a video on it. Crocs right now, in a sea of what is a lot of red names at the moment, or a lot of red names, I should say, in the it's not the Russell necessarily, but you're seeing a lot of weakness, which I guess makes some sense here when we're thinking about things logically. Clean divergence here overall with the IWM selling off once again, with the Qs not going down, but not necessarily going up. Wouldn't shock me that people are going more risk off into FOMC in general, and if anything, rotating some of their money into, this is again without me looking, Google, Microsoft, Meta, any of these mag names into earnings. Man, Nvidia up 4% on the day. This is crazy. Remember when I said Nvidia was going to go to 200? I think I said by the end of September, by the end of October. I can't remember. That was back when it was 140, and I think I just highlighted on the program 2 days ago. Here we are. Other mag names looking pretty. I mean, not a lot of movement, to be honest with you guys. Nvidia doing a lot of the heavy lifting at the moment, 4%. The underbelly of the market's not looking great right now, intraday, meaning like all the other names that are not Nvidia are not looking fantastic. It's looking tired is the word I want to use, honestly. Volatility is moving up to the upside. We're broken above this range, which I guess it does make some sense when we're thinking about this with FOMC today, that we're hedging, we're leaning a little bit more volatile. But you want to be super careful with volatility above this 1637. And now that you're above 1653, you got this room here to potentially expand up to 1718 today, which again, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense, especially with what's happening intraday today. I would prefer to see volatility get stuck in this range. But for right now, be a little cautious. When you have a green VIX and a green SPY, it's not necessarily a great sign, especially as the market is making a new all-time high and the VIX is roughly sitting at its high of day. Probably not a good indicator that you want to be like a mega bull right now, or really even a bear, right? You don't want to risk on versus risk off markets. This is a more risk off environment. Guys, make sure you're staying tuned, because in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to talk about some FOMC prep, which I'm sure interests a lot of you. And then also I'm going to provide you guys my analysis on why I think the stock market has a lot left into it, why SPY will go even higher than it is right now, with a few caveats, of course, but there is that opportunity there. And as I like to do on this program, I like to highlight the opportunity for you guys to consider in the market. Going back to Boeing here, we're kind of cooling off just a little bit in terms of volatility. The IV is continuing to drop on this contract. It was 59 when I highlighted it. It is now 56. If this sinks under like a 50 and we're not really moving out of this range, I want to get out, because it will continue to decay a little bit. Now, really, IV should hold, mainly because of what today is, and we still have not hit our implied move. So there is a chance that this swings back the other way here, obviously. And I am still prepared for that, as the bulls have basically defended the lows here. Kind of, this is not a inverse head and shoulders by any means, but in terms of just watching price action swings, you sweep the lows here. You had a previous low here, you broke a new low, but you reversed it pretty hard with decent volume, and now you're kind of building out a base above POC. That does indicate that there are bulls stepping into the stock at this current juncture. So if there is more continuation above this like little localized range here, which essentially you can use the high of this candle for simplicity, 217.42, you can use that as your trigger. Breaking above that should lead to a nice bull push here to that 219 and the 221. I will make a nice line on the chart so you guys can see it, and we will even color it red. What is that? 217.42. I was off by 2 cents. 217.42. And we'll, as I like to do with you guys, make a nice thick red line. There you go. That's all you need to watch. Try to make things nice, clear, and simple. Look at these wicks here in SPY. I don't love this. How's our IV? Woo! Like, I know today's FOMC and everything, and I know we have big earnings after hours. IV on the SPY right now is 28% at the money on 0 days. Now, I actually don't hate trading 0 days on FOMC into FOMC, because a lot of the times that IV is very sticky. And in fact, that IV on 0 day contracts tends to grow as we get closer to the event. So if you do want to trade 0-day options and you're pretty confident about the direction you're picking, granted, you may get chopped up, right? Could be a very choppy day as we approach another all-time high. We're near that pre-market high, mind you. Trading the 0 days on a day like this, IV tends to continue to expand. So you can fact check me at whatever, 2 o'clock. See if you're at the money IV goes north of this. Maybe it goes to 30, 35, 40, right? IV should continue to push to the upside, essentially. SPY is getting near that pre-market high, 689.41. We got to 689.36, so within a 5-cent variance of that pre-market high here. Leaving a wick for now. Getting a lot of volume, though. Big reaction. Did we get news, perhaps? Bank of Canada had their rate decision, so that could be affecting us a little bit. Came in line, 2.25%. So that could be part of the reaction here. We'll see. Qs are completely flat on that. Yeah, so basing off the reaction of SPY in comparison to the Qs, in comparison to IWM, this is a reaction off of the Bank of Canada rate decision. Because the most interest-sensitive names, which is IWM, which is also why I'm interested in the swing on it, are going to react the most violently when interest rates change, because that is going to help or hurt how they make their money, right? How much interest they're paying, because these are companies, a lot of them, that don't make any money. So if they're borrowing money from banks, it affects their interest, right? How much they owe to the bank, or how much they can even make, because if they spend more money on interest, then they can't have as much money to put into R&D and everything else. So whenever we see interest rates drop, we typically see the IWM rock. Ooh, nice one. Put that on a t-shirt. Pretty good. So based off the price action here on IWM, the time of day, in conjunction with the Qs, which are now also getting a pump, this is more than likely fueled off of that news today. Boeing chilling out down here right on that POC. Happy I took that trim, huh? Pretty happy. IV is now on this contract down to 56%. So we'll see if the bulls can fire it up here. They got to get going very soon, though. If this doesn't push up soon, then I'm going to get out with the remaining contracts I have left. Hey, but you can't be mad at... I don't even know. How long was that? That was a 1-minute trade. Pretty solid gain for a minute. Not too shabby. Sorry, I'm just catching up on things off screen here for a sec. We'll get back into things in just a second. Just making sure Rome isn't burning in the background. All right, things are looking pretty solid. Yeah, a lot of the names that I personally have exposure to are red today. And I like trading a lot of like small mid-cap names. So when I see a lot of red exposure on equity specifically, that tells me that things are a little shaky, because a lot of the names I pick are... Some of them are momentum trades, but some of them are fairly solid for what they are, right? And I don't want to see... don't like seeing that when I see red like that. Ooh. Western Union. Get a little move there. Ooh. Not too bad. So Western Union was in the news yesterday. And again, if you're in our Discord, I did alert some Western Union swings. I believe what I fill out. 42 cents, now at 60. So those are up pretty nice as well. Might be a day to harvest some swings before FOMC. Would be probably very smart of me. So let's actually get into that while I'll keep Boeing on the screen right now and just kind of give you guys a little bit of FOMC prep, because I know a lot of you are here for that. So obviously, today we have FOMC at 2 o'clock, and Powell's going to speak at 2:30. And for those of you that weren't here at the beginning of the stream, actually, before I get into it, do me a quick favor, guys. Wherever you are in the world, I forgot to do my cheap plug. You know I got to do it. I'm sorry. The algorithm loves me for it, and I appreciate your guys' assistance with this. Do me a quick favor, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're watching on YouTube, Instagram, X, Twitch, or Kick, interact with the stream in your favorite way, whether it's dropping a like, even a dislike, a comment, right in the chat, whatever you like. any sort of interaction. I appreciate it greatly. It helps support the stream. And if you like this show and you want more of this show, do me a quick favor. If you haven't already, pop on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Once we hit 500 subscribers, this will be an everyday show. So if you like the content, you want more of it, all you gotta do is hit that subscribe button. It's totally free. And I thank you all in advance for your support. Anyway, now that the cheap plug is done, let's get into FOMC. So obviously, like I said, FOMC is today at 2 o'clock. We have Powell talking at 2:30. Midday is more than likely going to be a landmine. There are going to be individual names, like a Boeing or anything else that's rocking on news or anything like that, that if you want to day trade, that is what opportunities you should sniff out, right? However, especially trading the market, at least in my opinion, it's going to be a little bit of a landmine in the middle of the day, as especially where we're sitting on the chart, people start to take their bets, so to speak, right? You want to be very cautious in that environment, especially with how the SPY has moved recently. Again, we've had gap up after gap up after gap up after gap up, which isn't a bad thing, but it does increase risk, right? As we talk about quite a bit, our risk to reward ratio. Did I get my fill? I did not get my fill yet. I've got a limit sell parked on LBRT. Sorry. Which I'm excited about because that'll be 100% gain. Not too bad. We want to keep that in mind, that as we keep seeing those gaps over and over and over again, our risk slowly increases as time goes on. Mainly due to the fact that, not that things can't continue to get more bullish, but in general, the market does need some semblance of cooling off, relaxing, right? The market's got to cool down a bit. Okay, now Boeing's going. So as I like to do, we're breaking over this key level on Boeing that I highlighted with my big red line. Keep an eye on that. And it's right near my entry again. Perfect. When you have that in the back of your head as you're looking at things, you have to understand that the market will sniff out a catalyst, an excuse, a reason to move, right? If the reason to move is because Powell said the wrong thing at the wrong time, that's the reason. If the reason to move is because Meta is discontinuing its Oculus headset or whatever, that's the reason. Whatever the reason is, the market's going to find it, right? That's what you want to keep in the back of your head as we continue to climb and climb and climb. As I alluded to, you also want to be aware of the opportunities that are in the market as well. Like, again, if you are day trading like a Boeing, where if you can get some exposure before the event, that's nice, because you can play that exposure into the day. And if you can't, you can't. But forcing something today, especially if you're a novice trader. Okay, now I got partial fill. Sorry. Let me just alert that real quick. Side note, hold on. 108%. Let's go. Man, if you're not in our Discord, you're missing out. I've been banging the swing trades lately. I've had one bad miss on the use, but that was made up for a long on pin duo, which is kind of like a proxy trade. I paired it together. Essentially because I was playing off of what China may or may not do. So ended up working okay. But definitely, if you're not part of the Discord, not enjoying these swings, you are missing out. I'll tell you that much. If anyone in the chat is part of the Discord, feel free to tell everyone how they're missing out. I think you're missing out. Just saying. That is my 1, 2, 3. My fourth 100% swing in. So that's my fourth. Okay. One of them's close, but not exactly 100%. That's my fourth over 100% swing in under 6 trading days. So if you like money, you're missing out. Omar said, great swings from Adam, except U, and UNH. Hey, okay, in my defense, UNH, I went half size on, and I explained very clearly, and the risk to reward was worth it. A. B, you're right on U. But I also paired that with pin duo, and that kind of washed itself. So there's always a plan there. And don't count me out yet, because if for whatever reason we're ultra dovish And maybe Powell even says something about investing in the U.S. continuing to invest in nuke names or whatever. This could still rescue itself. I haven't taken my licks on this one just yet. So it's not dead. Not yet. So don't count me out yet. We'll see. Boeing's still sitting around this point. Anyway, back to FOMC and stuff. A lot of new traders are going to lose a lot of money today. Whether that's trading the market, whether that's trying to trade during FOMC. And the biggest thing I see every single FOMC essentially. Someone going,
this one strategy never misses when FOMC hits. It's 95% hit rate. When Powell says good morning everyone, you short it, or afternoon everyone, you short it right away, then immediately reverse that into a long. Don't listen to anyone who's telling you there's some sort of foolproof strategy on trading FOMC. They're wrong, they're lying, it's engagement bait. Don't believe it. With that being said, most of you probably just shouldn't trade FOMC in general. There's nothing wrong if you want to, but if you do, a lot of people, and what I've seen where people mess up, and this is firsthand account, meaning I've helped people who have lost money with FOMC in the past, and some of them have been members of our community, and they've blown up, or a lot of them have lost a lot of money due to the fact that they'll make a 0-day option trade, because it's always a 0-day, and they're trading the SPY, and it's going to do some wild thing, right? It's going to go up, down real quick, whatever, and they miss their opportunity to take profit, or they choose not to take profit because they think the contracts can get more expensive, whatever happens, right? And then it reverses. Then they average down because it's got to swing back the other way or whatever. And you fall into this cycle of, like I think I talked about yesterday, watering your weeds. You keep averaging down, averaging down, averaging down, averaging down, averaging down. And you will lose your money. So for most people, and I include myself in that, I very rarely trade FOMC. The times I trade FOMC, I'm A, ultra aggressive, B, very light on size, and C, the chart is in a position where I have lopsided risk, meaning, which in this case, it kind of is lopsided risk to the downside, where the chart favors one way or the other on like the daily and on like the 4-hour, where if the market wanted to go one way, there would be a strong move in that way. Which actually today, if I wanted to be a bear, it would be the time to try to short during FOMC. But I also would not, as someone who is very good at shorting the stock market, I would not think it's very advisable to try to short the stock market at all-time highs with big earnings after hours as well. You might have a bad time. That's my 2 cents. So in general, I personally am going to be hands off. If anything, I'm going to make my moves right beforehand, like with Boeing, if there's the opportunity there. Otherwise it's done. Like this is a day where, and I even said it this morning, I do something called morning thoughts for a Discord community where I actually like give the community like the first thing that's on my mind in the morning, how I'm going to approach the day, kind of like a weather report, like a weatherman would do for finance. Right. And I basically said today around FOMC time, I'm just going to close my brokerage app out. I'm not going to look at any charts. I'm going to go on a walk, whatever, because I don't really want to be involved because the risk right now is too high. And it's very tempting for me to make a dumb move. And this is I've been doing this for 14 years, right? If it's tempting for me to make a dumb move, it's probably tempting for you to make a dumb move also. And we're all human, right? And I think what is the mark of a very good trader or an expert or an advanced trader is knowing your weaknesses, analyzing your weaknesses, and working against your weaknesses, right? Not letting your weaknesses take over, so to speak, and managing that. And in doing so, you're able to perform better. Because if I know I'm foaming at the mouth right now to potentially take a short on the market, and I take a short on the market and it doesn't work out, I'm going to be very upset, right? And then also we talk about mental capital, right? Your head, you're going to mess yourself up in terms of like how you feel. Even if you only lost $10 or $5, the smallest amount of money, right? Doesn't matter because you went against what you said you were going to do. Now you feel bad. And now mentally in your head, you're messed up because you're like, damn, even though I lost $10, I made a dumb move and it's something I shouldn't have done or whatever, and now I feel stupid. And that will lose you more money longer term, breaking that confidence, because to be at
a good trader, you got to be able to know when to pull the trigger and to believe in yourself when you make those trades in general. If you don't have the confidence to pull the trigger, or you lack the confidence in general, then you're going to make mistakes. Or also, you shouldn't be pulling that trigger, right? If you want to equate it to literal murder, you're only going to kill someone in extreme situations when you know that they deserve to die, theoretically, right? Same thing with trading. If I am very confident in this trade, I'm very confident I will make money, that is when I want to pull the trigger. I do not want to pull the trigger on someone who just looks like I should kill them. Again, equating it to murder. That's how serious you should look at it, right? That's how you should equate it in your mind. If it's a gamble, I don't want to take a gamble. That's why I personally am vehemently against using the word lotto with trading, or saying this trade's a lotto, because saying a lotto means you have no confidence. It could go wrong, and you're really not sized for anything. It's just like, if it looks good, then guess what? I'm going to flex I made a 20,000% gain, and if it does bad, I'll just say it's a lotto. When in reality, like UNH yesterday was a great example for me, where I said, hey, this is not a lotto, but I am taking a half-size position on this. If it goes my way, I'll make a good amount of money. But if it starts to go against me, I'm not going to have a massive loss, but it will be a loss, right? If you're going to have a lotto, that's how you should treat a lotto. You shouldn't treat it as, prepare to lose all my money on this trade, but if it hits, I'll make $1 million. It's not good for your mental, right? You have to have your mindset set up in a sense where you are consistently performing routine tasks in terms of sizing and risk in general, because that will keep you long-term safe. And most of you want to be here long-term. I know a lot of you want to make $1 million overnight. I do too. Who doesn't want to continue to make millions and millions of dollars overnight? And you might hit it and you might be good. You might do it over and over and over again. But having that level of high, very, very, very high risk, eventually it's going to catch up to you and you will lose, and the market will always win. So that's my little my shtick on risk in that sense, and how that applies to FOMC. So I'll leave you with this as it pertains to FOMC today. I'm not going to trade it. You can do whatever you want, but I'm personally not going to trade it. What I will do is I will manage my positions before it, meaning I'll tighten up stops on certain riskier names. I will realize some profit on some trades that are doing really well for me. For example, like the LBRT, it's now over 100%. Let's go. But I'll just manage what I have. I'll manage my exposure because that's my risk, right? That's what you should do if you are more defensive, and if your goal is to be here next month, next year, year after that. If your goal is to try to make as much money as quickly as possible, then you should be full porting on margin every single day, regardless of which way the wind blows. So today wouldn't make a difference. And I like to think my audience and those of you that are watching are more educated and more intelligent than that, and you don't want that, because a lot of you sit here and you'll listen to what I say, and a lot of the times you'll at least take it under advisement, right? Or we talk about it. I know a lot of you come and you're repeat watchers, and you'll at least heed what I'm saying and take it into consideration, right? And I think that is the best way to learn in general. Not that you do what I say, but a good trader, someone like for myself, what I've seen a lot of success in is taking bits and pieces from people I respect, the people who know more than me, and turning it into my own thing. And hopefully I'm at least a little birdie on your shoulder as it pertains to risk that tells you when you should be more risk on, more risk off, because that's what I really like to focus on this show in general. And in an environment where the market has gapped up 4 times in a row, you have FOMC as a key risk factor in general. I don't care if you're a bull or a bear, it's just a risk factor. And then you also have 3 Mag 7 names reporting after hours, which I don't even know what the $1 trillion market cap totality is of that. All of that rolled together is not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for stress and failure. Because the more randomness we bake into the market, the lower the probability of success. If you're someone like me that's a very logic-brained individual where you think of things very logically and mathematically, I don't want to throw wrenches into the plan. I don't want to say like, well, I have no idea what Powell's going to say. I have no idea what they're going to say on the Google conference call. I have no idea what they're going to say on the Meta conference call. I don't know. You don't know. We can pretend we know. We can make assumptions based on how the market looks, but we don't know ultimately, and anyone who says otherwise is literally wrong. They're just wrong. And that's really where you should have your head at going into the rest of the day, at least in my quasi-professional opinion. Now, let me catch up on the chat a little bit. Man, Obar and Toby going at it. Let's see. Great swing. Two misses. FOMC traders focus on Powell's tie color. Yeah, that's always a meme. Toby's an OG, remembering the 6 move is always the one. Yeah, guys, if you don't know, FOMC, the first move isn't legit. The second move is the move you want to look for, but only if it is cloudy outside. If it's not cloudy outside, you're going to want to wait for the third move. Now, the third move is the real move unless the fourth move ends up being the real move. Now, if the fourth move is the real move during FOMC, you're going to want to confirm that and make sure that you're wearing both socks. If for some reason you don't have one of your socks on, or if your neighbor is missing a shoe, then the fifth move is the real move for FOMC. That is as accurate as some of what people say is like the real move for FOMC to trade. That has the same degree of accuracy. I should write a book. Adam, for you looking at re-entry, I'm not going to touch that at all. It's way too far out the money, Omar. I'm not looking to re-enter at all. I'm not interested in trading it specifically today either. I'll let you know where it's sitting on the chart. Like I said, I'd like it as long as it stays above 1890, right? I'm way out the money right now. That's why I said this particular swing will probably end up being a loss unless there's a miracle, which if I'm betting on a miracle, that would be the miracle. But again, this is a very low risk trade for me at this point because it's already, I've written it off as a loss. If it ends up working, God bless. But if you were to get an entry, as long as it's north of 1890, it's good. You do have earnings coming up next week. So as long as it's north of 1890, it's solid for continuation. As long as closes are above 1890. If this closes below 1890, that puts it in a very tricky position. So I wouldn't touch it. So it's on the fence. You got a 40-cent variance right now of, could swing under that. 40-cent buffer. So you want to keep that in mind if you're looking at it. Oh, good. I got more fills. Sweet. All right. Essentially, I should really write that. Filled more. Essentially, runner size on these. For what it's worth. Actually, let me just verify with my broker that was correct before I send that. Executed. Love to see those words. My favorite word is seeing the word executed. Whenever I place a limit order and seeing the word executed, chef's kiss. Nothing better. Ooh, those Woo contracts are going for 70. Look at this. So this is an interesting one. People are piling into these Woo $10 calls, this Western Union, and the stock's not going anywhere. So I'm going to want to capture some of this if I can. So I'm going to see if I can trim out. I'll probably actually trim like half my position to de-risk because when we're moving up like that, the market might be pricing in a very big move or a news catalyst perhaps. But I'd want to, at this point, because I'm at like a 40% or so gain, if I can fill, I like a fill in the 70 range. So I've just placed a limit order on this contract. And again, I alerted these yesterday at 42 cents for our Discord community, which means that we're up, whatever that is percentage-wise, 42. Be a 66% gain, assuming I get filled. Would be pretty awesome. Set a limit, sell 4.70 for a 66% gain. Looking to offload half of my size for what it's worth. Okay, anyway, let's back. Oh man, LBRT broke my final price target. So these are gravy now. Wow, solid. Back to Boeing, sitting on the POC here. Did my IV sync off these? 54, so IV's kind of holding. Let me do some quick math because I need to figure out when I start losing money on this. All right, roughly around like $2, I'll probably exit these. So if these sink $2 a contract, I'll probably take a walk on them. Because at that point, it's almost a scratch trade. I'll have a few shekels in profit. But I don't want to cut off my nose to spite my face. This is consolidating. We're above POC. It's looking like it's going to hold and get a push still. So I want to give a little bit of room there. So we will see. We'll keep an eye on that, of course. Ooh, some 70s are going through. Did I get filled? Did I get filled? Let's see if I got the word executed. Nope. I have not filled, but 70s are going through on those $10 calls on Western Union. Let's pop back to the market, see if we're missing anything fun. Nope. We broke that pre-market high just a little bit, about like 20 cents or so. And we're leaving a bunch of wicks up here, so that's not a good look. As we come back down to yesterday's all-time high, let's actually go back to... Look at the Qs and look at IWM comparatively. Qs contributed massively to that little rush there, as did IWM. Now IWM is actually sitting fairly bullishly in comparison to the Qs, which are sitting a little more questionable at this current juncture. I actually like IWM quite a bit. I want to open a swing. I really want to open a swing on IWM, but I know the risk of... I mean, obviously, so me opening a swing on IWM right now from a technical perspective is where I wanted to, and I think I mentioned that 2 days ago when we were on this candle, and I'm like, if we can get back in this range and we're holding above 248.48, which we are, that's where I'd want to entertain a swing to the upside on IWM. What makes me hesitant is one thing or the other here, where FOMC is going to launch this thing into the stratosphere, or FOMC is going to sink this into the ground. Because you do have this little bit of a gap fill here that would put you back down to 247.12, so another $2 or so. My other concern is that the market has already priced in a cut, and consequently the excitement of there being a cut won't really do anything for small caps as a whole. So I'm a little trepidatious about considering a swing position on IWM today specifically. Now, if we sit around this range and we get into tomorrow, then I feel a little bit better because, yeah, we do have big tech earnings, but IWM doesn't care about that. So I feel a little bit better. Maybe I'll just wait. As I'm talking this out in real time, I think I'm going to wait and see. If I miss it, I miss it. But I have plenty of small cap exposure, so if things rock off, then I'll make plenty of money. In a little bit of a volatile move here. Decent wick. Let's see who's the culprit. Man, Microsoft getting hammered. It's not only really down 1%, but really just a straight decline so far. Same with Meta. Interestingly enough, we're pre-ER on these three companies, and Google's up to sideways, while the other two are selling off, which is interesting to see, to say the least. Overall, pretty quiet day, and Amazon kind of hugging that trend as well. But overall, pretty quiet day for your mag names. Open is back at that 814 level. Again, we talked about this one yesterday, 814, 838, 851. Key levels to watch on Open. Full transparency, I am still long better. I'm probably closing this out today or tomorrow. Today might be the day I just tighten a stop on this one. I have an entry around like high 50 something. I've trimmed out a little bit up here, but I am still long this for our small account in our Discord community, so I'm probably going to slap a stop on this one today, because this one could get a nice little push off FOMC, especially since this is a mortgage company. Depending on the 10-year moves off of it, could get a nice pop or drop. So I'll more than likely close this one out here soon. However, I will say if it does break 99, this thing going to get some love from the retail crowd. Okay, Boeing. Back to Boeing, guys. 50 MA with red SAR here, plus that key level, that red line here. We're about at my entry once again. 250 is the mid about. So if we get some love here, if Boeing can crack this here, we're set up for a nice solid move here with these contracts still being at about break even. Again, still a little red. Full transparency, right? The remaining calls are still red, but we're sitting at a very interesting spot here that if we get that push, we get that break, these are going to mark up pretty good. IWM sitting flat right now. Q's sitting marginally up. Very volatile for the last like few minutes. Very volatile. And SPY is just kicking around. Now you've got the 200 MA thrown into the mix here with yesterday's all-time high. Looks like MACD's trying to round out here on the 1 minute. Not much to see in my opinion. Nvidia's crazy today, 5%. Like Nvidia is the stock market. We're going to do my little segment on where I think the stock market's going here very, very soon. I just want to wait and see if we get this break on Boeing, and then we'll get into that. But I gave a little bit of a preface on my tweet or post this morning about where where I think the stock market's going to go. And there's a few things we're going to look at to validate that. And I saved the cherry on top for you guys that are watching right now. So we will see. How are we looking in terms of stream analytics? 3 likes? 8 likes. There it is. Okay. Hey, can we get me to an even 10? Can we get 10 likes, please? 10. If you haven't already, do me a quick favor. Like the stream. Thank you for the support. We're right at that SAR in the 50 MA here on Boeing. How's our 5 minute looking? 5 minutes looking pretty solid as well. Rounding out on the MACD. If this breaks this key level, right, you can even, if you want to extend it to be a little bit more conservative here. What's that? 217.65. We'll use that as like a confirmation. So we're looking for this red line to break most importantly, and then this tiny little blue line right above it, 217.65 as a confirmation of a confirmed break. That's going to put you above everything intraday besides the 200 that's right up here at that 221 price target that I'm looking at. So again, 219, 221. That's what we're looking to get here on Boeing. And thank you guys for dropping those likes. I see them update right now. Appreciate the support. Thank you very much for supporting the show. SPY sitting right at the POC, right at the 200, right at yesterday's all-time high. This is going to be one of those days, I think. Let's check on the IV. Here we go. I'm right. I'm telling you guys. IV, at the money IV, currently at 30 to 31%, depending on what contract you pick here, what side of the chain you're on. When we looked originally, they were 27. So we've climbed 3%, and the stock market has done nothing. And if anything, those contracts are obviously decaying. But they're probably going to hold their premium, and that's going to be offset by the IV increasing as time goes on. So these contracts more than likely are going to hold their premium as time goes on, regardless of price action, especially even if we just chop. If you see that IV continue to climb, so if you do trade 0-day options, you're going to want to keep an eye on that, because as that IV does anything but climb, you're going to have a bad time. It's also a time where some people try to think like they're geniuses and will be like, well, I'm going to open up an iron condor on the stock market today because I'm going to say it's going to go sideways the entire day, or I'm going to open up some sort of credit spread on the stock market because it's going to go sideways until FOMC. That sounds great and all until you realize that the IV is more than likely going to continue to climb throughout the day, and for you to have a credit spread be successful, you need the contracts to decay. And if the contracts don't decay, you don't make money. So if that decay is offset by an increase in volatility, then guess what? You make no money. So don't try to outsmart the market. It's prepared for that. It's ready for that. Trust me. It knows. Boeing getting close and not getting it just yet. Uneventful to say the least, but it was nice. I tried to get $4 fill after I filled the buy order. I shot for $4, and there was only ideally in terms of an exit, anything north of like 350ish would be kind of cool. Not exit in terms of closing out completely, but that would be a pretty solid move there, which I think is around about what I got. Yeah, that's roundabout where I took profit the first time, so that will be where I'm looking to take profit again. SPY is underneath that level now, kind of trading lower. I do think we get a reversal here. Oh, got a U alert. Quad U's. Oh man, LBRT. Woo, baby. 275. Might have to place another limit order. These are up to 3 now. Got in on these at I think it was 105. Well, let me double check. Yes, initiated a long on this in the Discord at 120 on 1023. So about a week or so on this swing. And now deep in the money, up near 19 bucks. LBRT in a solid push today, up 9% on the day. Good volume. This one I'm probably going to fully realize today. Solid swing. Did I get my 70 fill yet? Did anyone else get a 70 fill? If you were long, woo. Let me refresh and see. Did I get the magic executed word? Let's see. Nope. Not filled yet. Not yet. HR said, I didn't hear if you found out, but the time of the BA conference call is 9:30. Oh, don't do that to me. Central Standard? What's that in the time zone that matters? Eastern. I only care about the time zone that matters, which is not only the time zone I'm in, but the time zone that all the money's made in. That's Eastern Standard. I don't care if you're in the mountains. I don't care if you're in Pacific. And then the other one that no one remembers in the United States, was it Mountain Central? No, it isn't. Mountain Central Pacific. Eastern Standard. It's the only time zone that matters. If you're from Europe, sorry. Eastern Standard. It is the gold standard of time. Decent little move here on the U's. Not bad. Wouldn't get too excited on it, but not bad. Path looking okay. SPY back, I don't want to say above, back at this key level here. 10:30 in true American time. Thank you, HR. So I guess that explains the consolidation here a little bit more then. I don't even know what HST is. That Hawaii time? I don't know what HST is. I'm sorry. Hacker says, drive me nuts that Discord and Financial Juice won't go market time. I got, what is it? What do you mean? Oh, because you're probably not Eastern. That's why you're saying that. Okay. I'm like, minor ball in Eastern time. I live in New York. That makes sense. That mine would be in Eastern time. If you care that much, you can change, well, I'm pretty sure, you can change your time setting on your computer, and that should change it for everything that you're using. So if you want it to be in Eastern, you could change your time on your computer to be Eastern, and then everything else will reflect Eastern. HR says Hawaii. Okay, cool. Hawaii time. Lucky you. All right, market is trying to break above this old meaning yesterday, all-time high, also above the 200 MA. It's probably going to be a snoozer today, guys. These are my least favorite streams to do when it is a snoozer. Oh, look at Pinduoduo. I just saw the contract and see. Contracts are at a high here. I am long Pinduoduo as well. I alerted these in the Discord if I go back in time, because this was before I did threads, which is annoying. Now I can't find it. It's in here somewhere. There we go. On 10:23, so about the same time as LBRT as well. Got in on these at 276. I hate China, and I will probably close these out today. If you know anything about me, I hate trading Chinese names. I absolutely hate them. If I am trading a Chinese name, it's because there's more than likely decent profit to be made, or it's a hedge, or I'm looking to get out of the way very quickly, or a combination of all three. Otherwise, I stay away from Chinese stocks, ADRs, all the time. Horrible. I hate them. I am very cautious in general. Maybe you should consider to be cautious as well when it comes to ADR companies. Not that they're bad, but you want to be aware of the country that they operate in and how they hold their companies to whatever financial metrics and standards that they do. If you've been around long enough, and this is actually a pretty recent thing, the Lunkin Coffee, right? That Chinese company that was, whatever it was, $500 a share, $600 a share, or whatever. Turns out they cooked their books. Everything was fake, and stock went to like 50 cents, literally overnight. Like, no exaggeration. Lost all of its value right away. And that was enough for me to go, never looking to trade Chinese names. Don't care. Too much extra risk. So if I do trade a Chinese name, it is very carefully. And I don't look to overstay my welcome. Same way I treat shorts. I don't like to overstay my welcome when I'm short either. Take profit and run. That is the name of the game. And LBRT's a machine today. Look at this daily chart. Look at this weekly chart. This thing filled the gap up here? I'm put it at 21 bucks. Whew. I just had this for 18.40. So anything now is gravy for me on this name. Not mad at it. All right, Boeing is kind of sitting here. I might just close out to de-risk. Thank you for HR for the assist on the conference call. You know what I'll do? I'll set a stop loss. I'll set a stop loss for $2. Because that will at least provide me the exposure, assuming the conference call goes good. This, technically speaking, will reverse very hard, and I'm not kicked out of the position. But if the conference call goes sour and we see more red, then I'm only risking essentially with profits there. Even if I get a bad fill with a stop, then I will at least it'll either be a scratch trade or it'll be a baby loss overall or a baby gain. It kind of depends. So I think that's the plan. I think that's a pretty balanced plan, because that gives me, again, exposure to the upside here to make more money. And since I've already realized some profit, I'm just playing with the profit as a cushion if there is downside. So either way, it's a win-win. I think that's a very tactical way to handle it. Can I get a 70-cent fill, please? That's all I want. Give me a 70-cent fill. Wow, look at all this volume here. 15,000 volume. This contract alone, by the way. Ooh, actually, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to lower my trim size. The reason why I'm lowering my trim size, the volume today, which you can't see on the pop-up, the volume today on this call that I entered yesterday at 42 cents is 28,000, and the open interest is 21,000. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's making more money or these are all people buying. Could be people selling and taking profit, which would make sense too, as it's almost near 100% profit. But for me, especially for a contract that is cheap, when I've got some time on it, I'll be a little bit more patient. So I'm reducing my size on my trim here. And if it gets filled, again, it gets filled, which is great. And but the upside here, I'm gonna have to do a deeper dive a little bit later and see if there's more juice to that. There goes BA. Don't say that. Don't jinx it, Hatchet. Don't you dare. This is the pre-conference call pump, which puts me back at my entry. So like I said, this is your key level, and then this next line right here, 217.65 is like your confirmation. We're going to call this the, well, I don't know if Marcel's watching. Marcel's really good at jinxing good moves. And Hatchet, you might, don't do it again. We don't want anyone jinxing good moves. Then you get the moniker of being a jinx. No one wants a jinx. But hopefully you're the opposite of a jinx, and you saying that just means we're going to melt up and go probably like 230 today. That'd be kind of cool. I would swing these overnight if we if we hit 230 today. I would realistically look for yesterday's high and seeing a reaction there. That puts you at 225. And remember, you have a $10 implied move from 223. So 233 is really the implied move. So it's not unrealistic to say hitting 230 today, because we haven't even hit the implied move to the downside. In fact, we're $1 off. Now, you don't always hit the implied move, but you tend to, one way or the other. So we will see. There's still that opportunity there. Man, LBRT cooking. If anything else of interest to highlight to you guys, hold on. We're gonna go over my my little spy shtick here in just a second. Just want to see if there's any other stocks or anything I can highlight to you guys. There might be a decent setup opportunity, etc. Keep a lot of that for myself. Or for the Discord. It could be... I might talk about that one later. We'll see. Well, depends how the day goes. We'll see. This is my shining star for today, though. 10%. This has been a rock star after earnings so far. Got in on this green candle right here, around like $15, up about $3 since entry. It's pretty solid. Come on, Boeing. Now's the time. The time is now. Let's get some Boeing hype in the chat. Some excitement. And I apologize if I'm a little low energy today. Like I said, today was a rest day for me. I didn't go to the gym. I normally go to the gym in the morning, get my energy pumped up. But today was a day where I need to chill out a little bit and let the muscles rest. So I'm a little calmer today. Which is probably, in hindsight, a great idea for an FOMC day. For a potential high volatility day. Me being more calm, probably a better idea. So I shouldn't have promoted today's show as like electrifying and exciting, because it's probably going to be pretty calm and a little dull. But we'll try to make some jokes and laughs and goofs and gaffs as we go in between all these red and green lines and see where the opportunity, if there is any, lies today. There's so much choppiness. So much. Chop, 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 chop. Chop, 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 chop. Your VIX right now is in between that range still. You're getting near that 17, 18. So we're seeing, and this is not only IV on the SPY, but you're seeing VIX expand and hold as the market is quite literally flat from open. Okay, not literally flat, but pretty flat from open price. So really not much to see there. Boeing is literally sitting at my entry. There we go. So now we're above everything on Boeing. You've got the 5-minute starting to flip bullish. We're above my trigger level here. I would use 219 because, again, that's the key level I'm looking at here as like a longer term trigger on the day. Breaking that gets a 221, and breaking that we start to take off like a 747 to the upside. I also can't imagine, just from a logical standpoint, that they're going to say something negative on the conference call. Like, obviously they might have to say certain things, but a lot of times conference calls are perceived as bullish. Perceived, right? So they should be more on the bull side of things. Would I get a fill? Ooh, E-Trade might have done me good. Hey, I am all out of LBRT. E-Trade got me an extra 2 shekels. Extra 2 pennies. Let's go. All out of LBRT. Just updating my log. 146% gain. It still has legs to 21, but like I said, I want to tighten up my tighten up the books today a little bit if I can. Very happy with that. That was sick. I love trading the names that people don't really like watch or know much about. Those are like, when the opportunity presents itself, those are some of my favorite names. And I'm happy I held some size for that one too. There you go, Boeing. Boeing up at 330 a contract right now. We'll get back into that in just a second. Just updating things for the community. If you're in the community and you caught that LBRT trade, let me see some cows in the chat. Drop a cow emoji. You gotta love it. Cool. All right, Boeing right now about 15% or so gain here as we approach 219. So if you missed that trim on the first one, it's a little too volatile. Maybe consider a trim. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 330-ish. High of the last candle, or the last fill, I should say, was 330. Okay, so somewhere in that neighborhood. Hallam says incredible patience on Boeing. I mean, you don't close the trade. That's why I tell you guys, don't worry about the contract price. I mean, in this case, you would. So in this specific scenario, you would, mainly because of the IV, which the IV, again, you guys can't see it, but right now it's sitting at 55. So it hadn't dropped under basically 55, which is fine. So in this case, I'd want to watch the IV. But outside of that, always focus on the chart more than the contract. I will continue to always say that. The other exception to that rule is a setup like Western Union, where the stock is essentially flat from yesterday. I mean, it's up 0.5%, but the contracts are up 42%. Well, that's weird, huh? So people are buying these. The premiums are going up. There's some extra interest here for some reason. But most of the time, especially when you're day trading, pay more attention to the chart, less attention to the option. That's a good blanket rule for like 80% of the time. All right, let's get rid of LBRT. C'est la vie. Thank you for making me money. I sound a little French there. All right, we're at 219 right now. So if you did miss your trim, this is your shot to take a trim here on Boeing. Again, in that 330 range, you got a 325, 345 bid-ask spread. So 330 is right the mid there. You more than likely will get a fill if it's missed. So it'll give you about a 15% gain if you got a similar entry. Rough math. So pretty solid here. This would be the chance to de-risk a little bit if you were over-risked as well. Looking like we're getting a good move off the conference call. The next two spots to watch, again, that 221.82, which you see my little alert there. And then right here, now you got the 200 MA on the 1 minute. So two spots to watch. Dark blue line on my chart and 221.82. Those are next two levels to watch. Currently trading at 380. So we're back at a 30% gain on these contracts. My alerted exit was around, what was it, 38%, something like that? Yeah, it was about 38%, so I got a little bit more of that. I am actually going to trim out a few more here just to de-risk. Okay. So I took a few more out there. Lower than my first trim, but it's fine. It's still 30%, 30, whatever it was, 34%. So I'm not mad at that. So now what we're looking at here, we could see, you're going to want to watch the top of this candle, top of this candle, and top of this candle specifically. Real simple stuff here. Lines right up with the 200 MA, so you're probably going to hit a rejection there. Hopefully that will be higher than my first trim where I can take, might even just go to runners there and just enjoy the rest of the day here and just kind of let it do its thing. It depends how we react. Depends on volume. Volume's been really good right now, so I don't want to leave this trade as volume's higher. You always want to sell into higher volume, which is a good thing. But that doesn't necessarily mean you want to leave the position, especially when you're looking at like the 5 minute. And you basically built a base here, and then you have a higher volume breakout, breaking the 5 minute 21 EMA plus the 5 minute SAR. So there is enough fuel here from a technical basis, especially you break this blue line here, the 200 MA, that this is going to go at least over open price. So that's what I'm mostly interested in. So you don't want to necessarily de-risk too fast, but you also don't want to spit in the face of profit. That's why I took a few more off. So nothing wrong with making profit. You'll never go broke taking profit. I don't know who came up with that phrase, but they ain't wrong. All right, guys, we're going to ignore SPY for the rest of the day. You're probably going to get nothing from staring at it. So we'll just focus on Boeing for the time being. We're back around my original trim point here. So we'll see if that sticks or not. See if there's anything else going on down here that I can highlight for you guys. Not much, really. So we'll go into, I kind of want to go into my segment, but I also don't want to take away from Boeing here because it's kind of in play. So we'll give another minute or two on Boeing, and if it kind of just farts around here, we'll circle back to it and kind of go from there. So we're going to wait and see if we get another pop here, a continuation. If we get a continuation, we'll stay on it. If we don't get a continuation, then we will go to my next segment on the market, and I'll wrap it up and leave you guys to your devices, and hopefully not dangerous devices as you head into what is going to be a crazy period of time from 2 o'clock to probably 6. Probably a 4-hour window of just like erratic nonsense. That's not where I like to hang my hat. You do you, but it's not what I will do. I will not play in the sand pit. The mud pit, as I call it. While we're waiting on Boeing, I do want to pop back. Let's just check out volatility. Stagnant. Let's check out the big names. What's Boeing, or when's NVIDIA report? They always report late. I guess it's not scheduled yet. NVIDIA always reports later than all the other mag names. Google, flat. Microsoft, grinded down, now flat. Meta, a little bit of a bounce. Boring. SPY. Apple, shot up. Actually got a pretty bullish open, all things considered. Now coming back down. How's this look on the daily? Yeah, that doesn't look too convincing on the daily. This is, if there was a bearish look off of a bull push for some level or some semblance of a retracement, it's going to be something like this on a name like Apple. And they report in 2 days, or tomorrow. Not a great technical setup into their earnings. Amazon feeling the heat a little bit. Gapped up, now closing the gap, or attempting to. Open still south at 814 for now. Grab is at 6. Better's up 7%. My shining star Crocs right now. Red on the day, or just went red on the day, but still at about 86 bucks. Not too shabby. All right, looks like we got hammered back down on Boeing. Let's go back in and see. Here, you know what I'll do? I'll put a stop loss at break even while I'm talking. And that way, everything's fine. Move stop loss to break even. And that way, no matter what, it's a win-win. Now, I definitely won't lose money. I already trimmed some more, as you guys saw. Or as I said, rather. I trimmed some more when we got up here. Right was just about, it was like 30% or something. So I took a few more out. So I have less exposure. And now I can move my stop loss up. So now, no matter what today, I'm going to have a green port, which is what I want. That's all that matters. Things are looking good, right? So let's get into this little segment. This isn't necessarily going to be very long, but it is interesting to say the least. So, where is 6, 5? It's 5, 4. Oh, I gotta prep a little bit here. 429, that candle. So I think if I do that, and we can do this. I'm trying to make this as visually appealing as I can for you guys. Just go from here to there. Let's get rid of that. Come down. Oh man, this is gonna be a nightmare with the SPY because I have all my doodles on it. I've got too many lines. I'm like, I don't know if you'll even be able to see it. Hold on. I'm trying my best here. Okay, I made it red. There you go. Can I just click on it? Oh, wait. Oh, this is gonna suck. Stretch this out a little bit. There, I can click there. Okay, cool. That. And pull that down. There you go. All right. And I will record this in case anyone wants to hear it later on or refer back to it. So recently the SPY has been on a monster run. In fact, we've gapped up the last 4 days, I believe. Over and over and over again, the SPY has been fairly bullish as we sit at a new all-time high. And I'm actually going to highlight why I think the market will go even higher. But it's not without a few caveats. So first things first, we're sitting right now at 688.35 on the stock market. It's pretty high. We're right just shy of the new all-time highs we made today, intraday. And I think we're going to go much, much higher. Now, if you've watched the channel in the past, you saw that I made a prediction that we'd see 700 before the end of the year. And obviously, we're not there yet, but we do have 2 more months to get there. And I still think we're on track to hit that 700 price target. However, I am looking at even higher, 750 to 770 by the end of probably between Q1 to Q2, somewhere in that neighborhood, which is another 10% or so. And that's a conservative estimate because I do think we might go even a little bit higher. Here's why. Yes, the market's at its highs, and I see a lot of people on social media in general talking about breadth, right? And what is breadth? Well, breadth lets you know how all the other names in the stock market are performing in general, how what makes up the entire stock market is performing versus the weight of each individual stock. So for example, a stock like Nvidia affects the market. It's either 8, 9, 10%, something like that, just that stock alone. So when Nvidia moves up, theoretically, let's keep it simple math, let's say it's 10% of the SPY, right? If Nvidia moved up 10%, the SPY would move up 1% on its own just because of Nvidia doing its own thing. So as a result, when we have breadth, when we look at breadth, that is a strong outlier in comparison to everything else that makes up the 500 names in the SPY. Because you got to remember, the SPY is comprised of the 500 strongest holdings in the stock market, mainly why the reason it goes up and to the right consistently. And part of the reason why I think it's going to go up and to the right some more is because of how much all the other names are actually lagging. So what I want to highlight to you guys right now is the RSP. And if you don't know what the RSP is, this is the equal weight S&P 500. Now, they might look very similar, and obviously I chart SPY quite a lot more, and so they might look a little similar, but there is a few key differences here. Obviously, what makes it up is that it's the equal weight, right? So it's how much, if you took all the names in the SPY and you equated them to equal value of terms of weight, so that in the first example where Nvidia weighs 10% of SPY, in this case it weighs the same, whatever, 1/500th weight as all the other names, what the performance would look like. And when you do that and you compare the last 6 months, you have roughly, as you can see here on my chart, about a 15% gain on RSP. Pretty good, right? Now, if we go to the regular SPY, and got to excuse all my lines here, going to make it as clean as I can here, 27%, almost double the move of RSP. So the SPY has almost moved double than equal weight SPY has moved, meaning the outliers in SPY are doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now. Consequently, that opens up the door to a few potential interesting thought processes. Now, obviously, someone of a more pessimistic viewpoint may say, well, that's a lot of weight focused in one place. What happens if those things get bearish, they see a drawback, etc.? Obviously, the market's going to react negatively, and obviously things would come down a bit. But I would like to lean on more of the optimistic point of view, where even if those segments of stocks where you're talking about your Mag 7 names may see a moment of bearishness, maybe it doesn't necessarily stick around for long, or maybe it's a short-term correction, whatever, which is perfectly healthy and normal. I would like to look on the optimistic side of things, like I previously alluded to, and see where the opportunity longer term may be. And that's where the whole breadth conversation comes into play. Whereas the RSP has moved up and to the right, just like the SPY has, is done so at a smaller degree. Another part of my analysis here that I want to highlight to you guys is the IWM. So the IWM is the Russell 2000. This is what I personally use as kind of like a sentiment driver for the stock market. It's your small, your medium cap names, and the stocks that are highly affected by, obviously, interest rates. These are companies that may or may not make money. And they are smaller. So this is kind of giving you the idea of the lifeblood of the American economy, as I like to think of it. And I don't mean that in the sense of like the people who employ the most people, but I mean that in terms of the next big thing coming up through the ranks to eventually graduate into the S&P 500 one day. And this kind of gives me an inkling on how those smaller companies are performing. And obviously, since that little tariff drop here, they've been performing pretty well. In fact, if we zoom out here on the monthly, and hide my lines here for a moment, we're sitting at all-time highs as well on the IWM, which is pretty solid. In fact, I think IWM is set out for a stronger rally in 2026 than the SPY is, believe it or not. But this video is about the SPY. That'll be a video for another day. But I do want to highlight the strength of IWM and how much it has been pushing, basically moving in the same direction as the overall market as a whole, which gives me good sentiment that things are looking positive. Now, the one thing that a lot of people aren't looking at the end of the day is fundamentals. And you might say, well, I look at fundamentals all the time. You might, but me, I'm a technical trader. A lot of other people are technical traders. Maybe we're not considering the fundamentals. Maybe we're not looking at how Nvidia's fundamentals look, how Google's fundamentals look, how Apple's fundamentals look. because we're ignoring that for the growth prospect, of course. But if we look at the fundamentals of, again, the breadth, right, the all the other, 493 names that make up the SPY, how are they actually performing? So I took a deeper dive into that, and I was thinking to myself, how, as a whole, how are these names are performing from a fundamental basis? So ignoring the charts, how are the other 493 names that make up the SPY actually looking to perform and continue to perform? And so far, in general, the companies that make up the S&P 500 have been killing it on earnings. So currently, for this current reporting quarter, 82% have beat. So out of all of the ones, if we comprise them into a 100% sector, where if we hit 100%, that means everyone beats. If we hit 0, nobody beat their earnings. 82% have beat their earnings as it stands right now. And especially with this specific week, and if you're watching this later on, time. But this specific week, we have got 30% of the SPY reporting this week. So we'll get more data as we come. But as of this morning, about 82% have beat their earnings. And it's looking like, based on an estimate, that 85% of the S&P names will actually beat on their earnings. So that may not mean anything to you. What that does mean to me is that a lot of companies are beating their earnings, which is good. And you would logically think from a point of view that, hey, if I'm a CEO and I'm saying I anticipate to make this much money, or we guide it this much, like we're going to say we're going to make this much money, that's where our guidance is, you probably want to hit those targets, and more than likely you do. So how frequently do we hit these targets, right? The historical average of companies that hit their earnings or succeed them, beat them, is 74%. So right now, as it stands right now, we're at 82%, or an 8% significance to the upside that more companies are actually overachieving on the goals they set for their earnings. And if we round that up to the 85 that's kind of anticipated, that will be an 11% gain over the historical average, which would mean it would be the highest historical average of S&P companies beating their earnings since Q2 of 2021. That's back in the COVID times. So now put that in a big ball of understanding, right? We're comparing companies right now that are on track to have the best performance in general, beating their earnings in comparison to COVID time, where companies were, they were lowballing their earnings. They're saying we don't know what's going to happen, so we're going to guide down a little bit. We're going to suggest we're going to be a little bit lower and be a little bit more defensive with our assumptions, and they beat very well. Things went better than expected. But we don't have that catalyst right now. Yes, we have tariffs and whatnot, but we don't have end of the world, virus shutting down our business, we can't even make money kind of catalysts. So the fact that these companies are actually reporting and are on trend to report just as well as they did during COVID and significantly above historical averages is what I'm most interested in near term. Meaning, let's assume that when these big tech companies report their earnings, let's assume the most bearish outlook, right? Which is why I'm going to tie this all together. Let's get rid of this big red box here. We're going to tie this all together. No, don't want to do that. Get rid of that. Tie this all together with a very nice little bow. We've gapped up about 4 days in a row on the market, right? It's been moving quite a bit. We have big tech earnings today and tomorrow. Consequently, it wouldn't shock me to fill some of these gaps, or even fill some of these gaps in the near term, meaning maybe next week, right? But I think we offer a very unique opportunity here for the more longer term trader if we continue the trend of these, the 493 companies in the SPY reporting positively and overachieving. Because at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, what the market cares about is fundamentals. If things get bad, right? If tariffs take over the world and growth companies crash or whatever, what really matters at the end of the day is going to be fundamentals. So if we can go back and look at the fundamentals of these companies and see that currently right now they're overachieving with the stock market at all-time highs, a period or any period of significant correction, and even this one was just a 3% or 2% correction, 2.7% correction here on the 10th of October. If we get any period of correction or a slowdown for whatever reason, especially if it's off the back of big tech, I will be buying hand over fist, specifically in those 493 companies of the SPY. I'll be looking for the opportunities there, or I'd also be looking for the opportunities in the small caps in IWM. and less so in our mega caps, because of how that breadth is. I'd actually be betting on those companies that are not where all the growth is right now, long term, getting some more of that love from the market. Not that I think Microsoft's going to zero or Apple's going to zero, Nvidia's going to zero, that they're overvalued, they have to crash. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is getting some period of correction on those names will offer a unique opportunity to consider other names in the SPY, because they're more than likely going to get some bearishness off of that too, right? The whole market's going to go down. People are going to get scared. They're going to panic sell positions, and you're going to have very good value buying opportunity, in my opinion, when and if that time comes. Now, let's just say that never comes, right? In the market, everything's fine. FOMC goes great. Tech earnings are fantastic. Everything goes up, right? Then let it be. But in the event that it doesn't, and we do have a rational correction here, which I'll take anything between 3 and 5% at this point. A real correction would be 10%. But the market is hot, it's staying hot. If we see that weakness come into those 493 stocks on the stock market in general, and you are a longer term investor, I think you're going to see great opportunity there. Not only there, but those companies will see some downside, but I think the downside would be limited on those companies. So you might see a scenario where those companies, and I'm just talking in generality of the 493, right, come down a little bit, whereas the Mag 7 come down quite a lot in comparison, and obviously the SPY goes down. So there'll be an opportunity to purchase the SPY at a discount. There'll be an opportunity to consider something like RSP if you want to. I wouldn't look for RSP exposure in this scenario. I'd look for SPY exposure, because when things revert to the upside, you now have rocket fuel, because theoretically those 497 companies did not discount as much, but they've already been at a discount in comparison to their earnings. Again, speaking generalities. And when those overpriced companies, those big tech names that are overpriced, come down a little bit, you're now at a rare point in time where everything is at a discount, right? Very similar to tariff time, which is driven by a news catalyst, a little different. But what happens when we see a steep discount across the board like that, you will get a hard rally. And that is why I think we will see, and I'll say it, 770 on the SPY in between, so I should say before Q2 next year, 2026. What do you guys think of my my breakdown? By the way, I got stopped out of Boeing. Agree, disagree, thoughts, prayers? Well, gotta put my drawings back on. There we go. Market is moving down right now. Nothing to see there. Good stop on Boeing. Great time to put that stop in, too. And just kind of grind it back down to that key level. So I'm done with Boeing on the day. That was the trade. If it broke here, we would have had more upside. It did not. So I'm not touching this anymore. Did the IV decay on these on that? It did not. The IV still held. So not bad. Still ended up with whatever it was, 38%. You know, mid to high 30s on that trade. Pretty solid. So whether you caught it right away when I alerted it about a minute or two later, or if you caught it here, either way we made money, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So solid trade. Hatchet says, I hope you're right. Well, unless data changes, but data's data, and at the end of the day, I mean, that's how, if you think back to someone like, what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett. How Warren Buffett made the lion's share of his money. He made all of his money by buying deep value, right? He made all of his money by buying companies that were beaten down, that were a strong staple, that made a lot of money. It's a similar mindset of understanding that, and understanding that companies right now are beating on their earnings. They're doing very well. They're doing well. They're above historical averages when there isn't a lot of room to be above historical averages. Historical average is 74. You're at 82 right now. There's not a lot of room, right? You can only go to 100. So even that is significant, right? On top of that, especially we at 85%, it's even better. On top of that, the market's still sitting at highs. And because the breadth is spread out this way, if there is weakness in the tech sector in general, you will see the SPY come down, but it's going to overreact, so to speak, right, in comparison to all the other names that are in the SPY. So there's a lot of big, strong names that are still in the SPY that the SPY as a whole, right, will lose value if we see some tech bearishness, which is going to boil over to the other SPY names, right, the other 497. But the fall on those names shouldn't be as drastic. It's just going to be a period of bearishness, right? It's just going to be the boil over of people selling their positions, being scared. So theoretically, those positions shouldn't fall as much, but there might be a very unique proposition there on those names to either go long on those names specifically or go long on the market at that time. Either way. Eddie said, not a market question, but since you've been doing more shows, you've gotten used to talking for longer. I think I've been pretty solid about talking pretty consistently. I try to never have dead air. So there's very rare times where I have dead air, and if I do, it's because I'm thinking about what I want to say next, or there's nothing to comment on. But thank you for the I think it's a compliment, Eddie. Thank you. I try to give you as much excitement as I can, as much energy as I can. Today's a little lower energy, and try to keep things as interesting and educational while making money all at the same time. So we're trying to hit multiple targets, and hopefully that's what you guys will always get right here on the Atomcash angle. Which on that subject, I'm hungry. It's 11 o'clock. We're going to wrap things up, I think. I will leave you with this. Do not be a dum-dum. Do not be a stupid today. I've got over 100 of you watching right now. Please make smart decisions, right? We've been live for an hour and 45 minutes or so. This is what the market has done since then. You want to bet on this? The answer is no. Ivy continues to climb. So even as a seller, you're probably going to have a bad time. Unless you're scalping, and you got to be scalping for like 5-10%. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. I think for a lot of you, you want to not worry about the dollar capital you can make today. And if you are, focus on individual companies, and if anything, de-risking, realize profits, put tighter stops on, whatever. Just be more defensive. But don't focus so much on making the dollar. Focus on preserving your mental capital, right? At the end of the day, I went on a whole tirade of this, so I'll be very brief. If your head isn't right, then you're going to be not right when you're making trades. So even if you try to trade a SPY, make a 0 DTE, or you try to trade FOMC, and again, even if you make or lose $5, it doesn't matter the dollar amount. What matters is the impact to your mental game, your mental capital. If you make a bad trade or you make a silly mistake, even if you lose that $5, that might be enough to just kill your confidence because you went, oh man, I traded during FOMC and I lost money. Or then you do the worst case scenario and you average down, you make a bigger mistake, right? It's not worth it for a lot of people. You want to really just trust me on this one, right? It's not advice, but it is what it is a very friendly, kind suggestion that you may want to consider literally closing your brokerage app. If you're that tempted on individual names, you could set alerts. And when you get an alert on, then you go manage it. Just be a business owner. Like, you should act like a business owner as you trade today, and not act like a degenerate who sniffs glue and takes crack in order to trade. Just saying. And he says, nah, like your voice, you have gotten used to nonstop yapping. Well, thanks. I'm sure I got the gift of gab from my father, so hopefully the nonstop yapping is solid. You're doing great entertainment-wise. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. Thank you, HR, as well. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. I've given you enough forewarning. You guys know what to look for. Wait, did I get my fill? Did I get my fill? Wow, people are still loading these contracts. Hold on, I have to see if I got my fill. Because I still parked a sell order at 70. I just reduced the size. Nope. We'll see if I get my fill. Stay tuned on the next episode. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of your day. There might be another stream. Not today, but there might do one tomorrow or Friday. I'm going to definitely try to squeeze one in for the Discord. I might do like a power hour thing or something. We'll see. I do have a busy rest of the week, so I'm going to see if I can just do one more. Just because of how hectic this week is, I feel like it'd be more helpful than not. If I'm going to be live more often, it should be during a week when you guys are probably more concerned about what's going on. And I can try to dull the pain of, or the concern that is out there. So anyway, that's all I got to say to you guys for the day. As always, remember, Some will say you need an edge to trade. Well, I like to look at things from a different angle, and that's always what you get right here on the Atomcash angle. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and remember, precision beats prediction every damn time. I will see you.
Time has passed, and that's a wrap. You're armed with the angle and your plan of attack. While the show is at an end, your journey continues. We live